So it's almost Easter, and there's a lot of excitement in our house as we look forward to this special time of year together with Branson and Xander. You can see I have Easter eggs in a little bouquet on my table. They're actually made by my younger siblings, so I can't claim any bragging rights on them, but they're very beautiful and festive. Anyway, so this time of year has always been a special time for the children, and I just was remembering a story from my childhood, I guess. We actually acted it out. We did a little play when I was in 2nd grade, I think it was. But it is The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde. He's a poet, an author. Anyway, so there's this giant who lives, I don't know, I think it's based in England, but he is a very selfish man. He actually has a very beautiful garden, and he once found some children playing it, and he sent them away, and he built this really high wall and put a big sign out that said, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." And then because he's so selfish, winter comes and stays there, lives there, and the north wind comes, and ice and hail, and it just, is winter for many years. Until one day the children manage to sneak back into the garden, and they play, and kind of the trees start to bud again, and the giant looks out the window, and he sees the children, and then they all run away because they see him, except for one child who stays in the tree, and there's just this little tree of spring, and all the rest is wintry. Anyway, and the giant comes out, and the child is not afraid, and so they make friends. And then the other child invites all the children to come back, and for years they are happy there, but that little boy goes. And then my memory is that the child, sorry, I haven't read the story in a couple of years, so kind of just doing it out of my head. But then the child comes back, and the giant sees on his hands that he has, and one thing you should know is that the child is representation of Jesus. So, and the giant sees on his hands the places where the nails pierced, and he gets very angry, and he says, "Who did this to you? I'm gonna go and get rid of them and hurt them back." And then the little boy, Jesus, says, "These are the wounds of love." Anyway, it's actually like a really moving, special story that kind of shows like a childlike story of Easter. I don't know if that makes sense, but and then the giant dies. But I've always appreciated that story, and it's always kind of meant something to me. Okay, so I said this before, but in this video, I just want to tell you a little bit how we celebrate Easter and look forward to it, how we observe it here at the Bruderhof. So, first, Lent. We don't really observe Lent in any official way, but I know I have some friends who are giving up different things for Lent. And then we do take time individually and collectively to reflect on Jesus' suffering and death and what it means for each one of us personally. One thing that we have is a huge collection of really beautiful Easter songs. Many of them are classic hymns like "Crown Him with Many Crowns." I can think of many more. Also folk songs. But then there are also many that were composed by people from our communities, which are the ones that, especially the children learn and especially love. So in our house, we've been singing Easter songs for a couple weeks already, and Branson is totally into it. I just want to describe a little bit what the celebrations of the Holy Week will look like. So, as I've said before, and as with Christmas, a lot of our celebrations are geared towards the children because it's amazing how much they understand the real meaning of Easter and just take it into their little hearts. So Palm Sunday begins with a procession around the main buildings of our community with singing and palm branches. It's led by a real donkey usually. If there is one available here at the Mount, we don't have one, so they have one made out of plywood and painted gray, and the kids think it's a real donkey, I'm pretty sure. But other communities, most of them have a barn with a couple horses, sheep, and so on. They often have a donkey. So one day, maybe at the Mount, we will. Anyway, Branson has already made his little palm branch. I don't have it here, but out of green paper, and it's like mounted on a stick, and he likes to practice waving it at home, and we have to make sure he doesn't whack Xander with it by accident. Anyway, then for each of the days of the Holy Week, we gather to think about what happened on the day as it's told in the Gospels. There's an old German song that we sing with a different verse for each day of the Holy Week, and it's like a conversation between Jesus and his mother Mary. So, for example, like on Wednesday, the verse is, Mary asks, "O Jesus, dearest son to me, what wilt thou on Holy Wednesday be?" And then Jesus answers, "On Wednesday, valued as a slave for 30 pieces, I am betrayed." And I remember as a child, that song made a deep impression on me, especially the verses for Good Friday when Mary asked Jesus what will happen on that day. And Jesus answers, "O mother, dearest mother to me, would Friday from thee might hidden be." So we'll meet each day of the Holy Week, usually with the whole community except like the youngest children, and sing some verses from that song and read from the Bible. On Thursday, the day before Good Friday, we gather for a meal in the evening to remember the Last Supper that Jesus had with his disciples. And the young people or the teenagers usually prepare this and make the dining room really beautiful with white tablecloths and candles. And we have like traditional Passover food that symbolizes the suffering of the Hebrew people in the Old Testament times. We usually have like matzo and lamb. I know it's not perfectly like kosher or Passover, like how it really was, but we try. It's more like a representation. And in that way, we remember the origins of the first Passover, which is, of course, an incredible story and a lot of symbolism. Sometimes the older school children will read these passages from the Old Testament or Psalms, and we'll also think on Jesus' words of farewell to his disciples, how he told them to watch and pray. And I actually remember one year, I think I was in high school, we actually had a fire all night long of that Thursday to Friday, a fire where people kept watch and you could come and just sit by. It was like a bonfire with like chairs or benches around, and I remember that was very meaningful for me that one year. You try to keep your eyes open and think about how Jesus must have spent his last night on earth. Anyway, Good Friday then is a day, usually it's pretty quiet as we try to take in the suffering and death of Jesus on the cross. The school children take time with their teachers during the week before. So like they won't have school, they won't have classes. So instead, they'll go and prepare a place nearby, like on the community outdoor somewhere, where they set up 3 crosses and sometimes also the traditional stations of the cross. And each of the younger children will make little Easter gardens in the woods, often at like the foot of a tree in the roots, and they'll construct little tombs or out of rocks and moss, and make crosses with twigs like tied together with grass and decorate them with flowers. It's really beautiful, and it's because it's like really vivid in their minds. And as a child, I just loved these hours in the woods, and where we'd rake away the leaves, the dead leaves from last year, put down fresh wood chips, and just make it really beautiful and welcoming for the whole community just to spend time together. So when the community gathers at this location, wherever it is, we'll read the Good Friday story, and then there's some songs that are, especially like Good Friday themed songs. They're especially meaningful for that day. One of them is, "Were you there when they crucified my Lord?" And I don't know if you know that song, but it's an old African-American spiritual, and it's always been a very special part of the Easter experience for me, because it's a reminder that each of us bears some of the guilt. So following that meeting, families will then take time together at the places that the children have made. And another thing that we often do on Good Friday is to sing from Bach's St. Matthew Passion. Our community choir and orchestra is pretty far cry from anything professional sounding, But since we've sung from that piece for decades, most people know it pretty well, and even if it doesn't sound perfect, it's another way to try to take in the events leading up to the crucifixion, and I think it's really beautiful. And often, like, one year when I lived in Luton, we actually just listened to the recording of it, and I think we even tried to sing along. So then Holy Saturday is a day of waiting, a day to spend time with our families. And then it's Easter Sunday. And as a child, I remember looking forward to that almost as much as looking forward to Christmas morning. Before the main event, which is Easter breakfast, we will often watch the Easter sunrise together. So here at the Mount, most people will go up to the roof. There's like a big kind of like observation deck kind of a thing, and watch the sunrise over the Hudson River. Breathtaking, gorgeous. I love it. Anyway, so Easter breakfast is the main event of the Easter Sunday celebration. It's with the whole community except the youngest children. And as I said before, it's a big celebration. So outside the dining room, there's usually a brass band playing Easter songs. And for me as a child, that was like the most exciting thing, to walk out of my house with my parents on the way to Easter breakfast and hear that music just blasting all over the whole community, just victorious, just beautiful. And the day before, on Holy Saturday, the young people and teenagers will spend a lot of time on that day preparing the lobby and the dining room for Easter breakfast. And they'll often make an amazing garden display out in the lobby with saplings hung with colored Easter eggs and plants and moss they've collected, and a little pool maybe, or a fountain with the pool, baby ducks swimming in it, or little baby rabbits. I remember one year they even had a little goat. Anyway, anything to do with spring and new life. And of course, that's always a highlight for the children. And then the tables in the dining room are set with tablecloths and colored napkins and fresh spring bouquets. So it really feels festive and a special day. One kind of fun tradition at Easter breakfast is that everyone takes their hard-boiled colored egg and cracks it with their neighbors. So cracking eggs. Anyway, and it kind of goes and goes and goes until there are only a few people left whose eggs aren't cracked. And then so at the end, someone is the winner, and I never was the winner. I think I probably always selected the egg with a crack in it already. Anyway, so the meal is just like a festive brunch, but with everyone seated and eating together. And at the end, one of the pastors will read the Easter story, and then the children can suggest their favorite songs, which can go on for a very long time. Lots of orange juice and stuff to keep yourself lubricated. No, but it's just a wonderful celebration. Anyway, one favorite song is a song that's based on verses from the Song of Solomon, and it's set to music by the legendary Morla Swinger, who's a composer and a member of our community. She's in her 90s now. Anyways, the song starts, "Arise and come, for the winter now is past. The rains are over and gone, and the time of singing has come." It's a little bit too demanding for me to be singing now as a solo, so I won't try to, but I'll just drop a recording of it here at the end. Anyway, I wish you just a lot of joy for this day, and happy Easter to you and your family, and I will see you next time.